What's going on, guys? David with Miracle Canine Training. We're here with Ian again. This is going to be the third installment of our kind of tutorial videos, just demonstrating some of the process of the training that we're doing. This is going to go hand in hand with a clip that I posted the other day of finishing all of the e-collar conditioning with some of the basic commands that we're doing. So up until this point, you guys saw the video of us conditioning in the e-collar, utilizing continuous pressure with the walking and the sit stays. I've also went about conditioning it in with the bed stays as well as the recall, which you guys will see the clip of as well. So now what we want to do is we want to start piecing things together a little bit. We've conditioned it in with the basic commands. We know he has an understanding of what this e-collar means. We know he's not overly stressed out by it or anything. So now we want to start generalizing it and just putting it into basic use, right? So one of the first steps that we do to do that is we start conditioning in recalls off of the bed. So we're taking two things that we've conditioned in here, and we are essentially asking him to start to distinguish the difference between the two of them. Now, while we're simultaneously doing this here, we're going to be switching from using continuous pressure on the e-collar, so negative reinforcement or conditioning, right, to single tap correction. So marking with no, giving a tap on the e-collar here for non-compliance. So that would be positive punishment, the other form of utilizing aversives. So the idea is we're implementing a correction, right? So we're adding something positive in order to decrease the likelihood of a behavior, which would be non-compliance of the command, right? In addition to that, we're going to be using our food in order to reinforce correctly as well here. So we're still in teaching phases, right? We know he knows what these commands are, but we don't necessarily know that he knows how to generalize very well between them. So what we're going to be doing is showing you a step-by-step process of how to get this looking really good off of the bed with the recalls and how to move smoothly with it. All right, so first step here is going to be getting him into a command, obviously. So you see right now he's in a bed stay, which means get on this object, stay there until released otherwise. And we're gonna be doing this on a really short leash right now. I'm not creating a ton of distance. And what I'm gonna be doing is as I give that recall command here, I'm gonna be giving a lot of help with both the leash as well as body language, right? So I'm gonna stand here. In a minute, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give the come command. So I'll tell him, Ian, come. At that point, if he doesn't get up and start coming to me, I'm gonna mark with no, give a tap on the e-collar, and then I'm gonna give him any help I need to get him to me. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna be creating distance on that recall. So I'm gonna be taking steps backwards in order to drive him into me, utilizing my body language. After this step, you'll see we'll implement using a long line, giving less help, and generalizing and proofing even more. So we're gonna get started. Again, walking to the end of the leash first, making sure he's staying stable. From there, Ian, come. Creating distance. Good. Marking with good when he gets to me and rewarding. From there, I'm just going to release him out of that come command. Okay. I'm going to walk him back to the bed. Bed. Good. And I'm going to get him back into command on that bed. And now we're just going to repeat this process a couple of times here. Walking to the end of the leash, making sure he stays stable. If he got up and jumped the gun, again, mark with no. Give a single tap correction on the e-collar. Help him back onto the bed. Ian, come. Good. Again, releasing him out, okay. Taking him back, bed, good. Now for any of these commands that I give, the order of operations for helping him back into the command, if we need to, is gonna be one correction, so marking with no, giving one tap, and then any help needed. If I can get away with just gesturing onto the bed, great. If I can get away with using the leash to get him onto the bed, that's fine as well. Ian, come. Creating distance, good. Okay. Bed. Good. Walking to the end of the... No. Correcting. Helping back on. Walking to the end of the leash. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Now throughout this whole process, we're looking to keep the motivation up. You see he's peppy. Whoops. You see he knows what it is that we're asking of him here. And because of that, even if I do need to give a correction for something, it's understood, right? There shouldn't be a whole ton of confusion or stress associated with that. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. All right, so second step of this equation, once that part is going good, is you'll see that we have him on a 20-foot long line here. We're gonna be creating more distance, or we're gonna be giving less help with our body language on that recall. Now, when we're using the short leash, a lot of times you won't get a whole lot of them breaking the command before you want them to, because you're kind of right there, kind of, you know, using your spatial pressure to keep him onto the bed. So as we create more distance here, we may run into issues with him jumping that gun a little bit more here. And in addition to that, since we're not giving as much help with the backwards motion, we may see he might be a little bit more hesitant to come off the recall. We'll see. He's pretty motivated where we might not run into a lot of those issues. So again, he's in a bed stay here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna walk to the very end of this leash, taking my time, going all the way back. From there, I'm gonna stand nice and stable here, and I'm gonna give my recall command. Ian, come. Good. Once he gets to me, marking with good and rewarding for that. From there, same process, okay, releasing him, walking back to the bed, bed. Good. Now we may also see that he might start wandering a little bit on the way back to it because he's on a longer leash here. There's less helping him come right back to that bed. So we'll see what we get. Ian, come. Good. You're good. Sure? Yeah, no problem. Okay. Bed. Good. I can see even distractions. We got a tow motor turning on over there, things like that. Now these are all things where typically we wouldn't want to be working around distractions like this, but he has the motivation to be able to work through this. This would be more proofing stages of stuff. But again, no. Marking with no, giving my correction, bed, getting him right back on. But these are all things that we're going to eventually want to work through with him. So again, walking to the end of the leash. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Again, doing really, really wonderful with those distractions here. Into the end of that leash. Ian, come. Good. Now, if you take your time with the steps beforehand, so conditioning in your e-collar with the recalls and the bed stays and taking your time with that first step of this, all of this should be pretty effortless, okay? We're just incrementally making it more challenging, bed, as he's ready for it. Good. And because of that, we shouldn't run into very many hiccups because we're working at his pace with this. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. All right, so moving on to our last two steps of this. We have the recall established on the long line. We have him understanding the difference between these commands here, and he's working really smoothly with those. So once he's smooth with that portion of things, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in a second bed into this. So all this is doing, and all of the bouncing around that you see us do very frequently does, is generalize our positioning, right? So I don't want him just guessing one pattern. I want him understanding that wherever I'm standing is what he needs to be paying attention to, not just one particular situation. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna walk to the end of my long line. I'm gonna do slightly in between the two beds. So we refer to this typically as like our pivotal point of the two beds. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call him to me first. I'll reward him for that. And then I'm actually gonna take him back to the opposite bed. And then I'm gonna repeat that process going back and forth here, generalizing one, two different beds in two different positions, and then two, my positioning in relation to which bed I want him to get on and where I want him to recall to. So we're gonna get started. Ian, come. Calling him to me. Good. Marking and rewarding. Okay. Telling him okay. Taking him back to the other bed. Bed. Good. Same deal, walking to the end of the leash first. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Now you can see he's kind of a little jumpy there, kind of, leaning at the edge of his seat a little bit. If I see too much of that, I'm just going to wait him out a couple seconds longer before I call him. I want to see him fairly committed to that position before I go to recall. So right now, again, fairly stable. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Now, the only other thing to notice is how clear I'm being with my good marker here. I'm not saying good as I'm reaching into the pouch or right before I'm about to give the food. I'm using that marker to identify specifically when he does the correct thing. So before I ever go to reach for the rewards, Ian, come. I'll call him to me, good. And then I'll mark with good right when he gets into position. Okay, same deal with getting onto the bed. Bed, good. So I'm marking right away when he gets forepaws onto that bed. I'm not trying to delay it until I'm ready with the food or anything. Our markers buy us the time to give those rewards or give those corrections. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Good. Okay. Bed. Good. All right, so the final step here is going to be just generalizing slightly further. We're going to be recalling directly between the two beds. So again, generalizing my positioning and related to stuff. I want him understanding that even if I recall him when I'm next to a bed, I could sometimes also expect him to get right onto this thing. So just like with everything else, I'm going to walk to the end of the leash. In this case, I'm going to be standing near the other bed. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call him to me first, then I'm going to give the bed command. So Ian, come. Bed. Good. And then marking as soon as he gets onto it. You can see a little bit more confusion there. He kind of started slowing down once he got to me before we actually gave that bed command. Just working him through it here. Ian, come. Bed. Good. And marking and rewarding. Ian, come. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Bed. Good. No. Again, marking with no, giving my correction, helping him back into command. Ian, come. Bed. Good. Ian, come. Bed. Good. All right, so these are just kind of the steps that I go about putting the dog through when I first start generalizing these positions with each other. You see how I incrementally work towards a goal, which is him having a good understanding of both the recall and the bed interchangeably here. Looks really great. We're gonna work on this for a handful of days with him. We're gonna make sure that we get him just nice and smooth with it before we add anything else. From there, we're gonna have additional steps that we put him through. And we'll obviously go ahead and document those for you as well. So if you have any questions on anything, hit us up in the comments below, but this is the next step of things.